when you have something valuable stored away in the bank, let's say your last will and testament, for someone to access that and look at how you wanted your estate to be distributed, they would have to go through two barriers. Not only do they have to get into the vault, they're going to have to find the right safe deposit box, and then they're going to have to open it. If you're the executor of that will, you will need two keys to make it through those barriers. For this team, those two barriers have been protecting the QB, just giving him time to throw and work and get the ball to where it needs to go. And the second has been DJ Durkin's scheme, allowing our guys to work, get pressure, play aggressively. We've tried to pin the defensive woes to many different donkeys. The three-man front, two high safeties, I'm big time guilty of that, and no blitzing, okay? All of those are fair points. This barrier might be better understood like this. Our guys need to understand how to play in his scheme. And maybe more so, what needs to happen is he needs to utilize his scheme to maximize our players' talent. Saturday we looked really good on a lot of fronts. This team might just have found its identity and the keys necessary to open up the vault. So let's break this thing down by starting with what exactly is in this lockbox and what is so valuable. So if you looked in that lockbox, you got into it, you got through the vault, you found the right one, you looked in it, what would be there? It would be our valuables. What are our valuables? Win the West. I don't know, a 10-2 season. Positioning ourselves for success next year when realignment happens. Realizing a dream. This ongoing dream that we had, that's what's in this lockbox. Rather, symbols for that or the means to take care of that, right? Usually it's some sort of wealth that's attached to this will. And with that wealth, you can do things like purchase a house, pay for your kids' college, I don't know, retire, whatever it may be. You've got some sort of dream that you're wanting to accomplish, and the things in there will help you do that when it's passed along to you. That's what's in this lockbox. Look no further than what happened this week. Let's talk about it. Here's the thing. So here's what you're actually going to look in there and find that will enable you to do these things. 3 offensive points allowed. That's what this defense did. 3 offensive points allowed. Yes, there was 10 points. Remember, one was a fumble recovery, scoop and score. 3 offensive points. Only 200 total yards allowed. 56 of those were passing. 10 opponent penalties, many of which were holding. Now, why I mention that? Because the way the defense played is causing penalties. It's benefiting us. You've seen this happen a lot on offense, by the way. A lot of holding calls because Noah Thomas has been that dude. Stewart as well, but it's happened a lot with Noah. They're holding him, not letting him get by. They've got to do that, like pass interference. Like you've got to foul the guy underneath the goal because you know he's going to get 2, so you foul him just on the off chance maybe he missed the 2 free throws, right? That's what's happening. We're getting additional penalties that benefit us because when the offense goes backwards, that's huge. You just turn a 2nd and 10 to a 2nd and 20, right? Listen to this. Top 3 tacklers were linebackers. When's the last time that happened? Top 3 tacklers, linebackers. Top 4 tacklers were front 7. Look, y'all, this is not the Jackson Appel era. No disrespect on there, right? That was what it was. And don't mention it in the comments, please, because I'm having, flashbacks. I don't like it. Fetal position curl, I don't like it. Okay? DBs are not making the tackles. 15 tackles for loss. I talked about this so much last year. Setting the offense back. Penalties do that, sacks do that, tackles for loss do that, and those are big time things. When you're doing that, you're enabling yourself to get off the field. It's hard to convert a 3rd and 8. And if you just got, let's just say, 5 on first down, 2nd down, you come back, run a play, you get a holding call, and now it's going to be 2nd and 15. Let's say you hold them to 5. It's 3rd and 10. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. Now, what I'm going to tell you next is something not a lot of people are going to want to hear. But it's true. It is what it is. Take it or like it. Take it or leave it. Like it or not, you can't do anything about it. We're 14th in total D in the nation. Number 14th. 40th in rush D. 16th in pass D. Number 2 on third down conversions by the defense. Funny thing, for red zone scoring, for conversions in the red zone, our defense is 79th. After all those numbers, I tell you, 14th in D, 79th. Does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. So I dug deeper for you. I figured out kind of what was going on, I think. So, but I refactored this for attempts. So how many times people were getting into our red zone. It turns out this has actually happened 7 times in 4 games. You know how many more teams have allowed less than that? So we're in the single digits. Most teams are in the double digits. They've allowed at least 10 plus trips into their own red zone. We've only allowed 7. There are only 4 Power 5 teams that have done any better than that. It's Penn State, Florida, Michigan, and Ohio State. Listen to what they faced, okay? Penn State has faced West Virginia, Illinois, and then number 24, Iowa. So they have had 3 Power 5 opponents in their first 4 games. Okay, I mentioned that because it's kind of pertinent when figuring out how likely is a team to get into your red zone, right? You know, you're facing a bunch, say 3 cupcakes. Well, okay, maybe so. We have faced 2 Power 5 teams, and so I wanted to take a look at that. For instance, Michigan, only Power 5 team they've even faced. And just leave this as it is. It's been Rutgers. So 4 teams they've played, and you heard all the stuff with Jim Harbaugh early on. He's been suspended for the first 4 games, self-imposed, and it was no big deal because they were playing nobody. So it's not. They've only had that many attempts. Well, yeah, for good reason, because of who they're playing. We've played Auburn, and we have played Miami, a highly rated team. Now, won't make the same points for the other 2 teams, which are Florida and Ohio State. Florida has faced number 14 Utah and number 11 Tennessee, so doing quite well there. Maybe a place people didn't think Florida would be. Ohio State's faced Indiana and then number 9 Notre Dame. So just to give you some reference points for the teams that are ahead of us and doing better, yeah, we're 79th in this particular stat in red zone conversion rate by our defense, even though it's rated so high because we've had so few attempts. But that's actually a huge, huge strength. Now, we've gotten to this point. Have you liked or subscribed yet? You haven't. I mean, like 80% of y'all watching have not subscribed to the channel, which is fine by me. Come on back, man. We're loving this. But I'm going to be here all year, and it's just having a lot of fun. Besides, I mean, where else can you get this content from, right? Well, I mean, okay, you can get it from TexAgs, that's fine. You know, but here's, I mean, I think I maybe have better hair than Billy. I don't know. If I do, just go and subscribe to the channel or leave a comment and let me know if it's better. He's got the locks coming out the backside, and you know, it's just not going to look well on me, and more of the goatee. I'm kind of more of a mustachio guy. So, but you know, whatever. If that lines up for you, just go ahead and hit it. It is what it is. Rolling into the offense though, because these are the things that are going to enable us to then challenge for the West, that are going to allow us to get into the 10-2 range. And let's start off by probably the biggest surprise of the night. We have a starter and a backup, y'all. It's Max Johnson. We got his brother too, so we got that whole Johnson & Johnson connection, right? Which is, you know, everybody loved that. What a sweet moment with that for those parents, for those brothers to get that touchdown and have that connection that they haven't had since the state championship I played in. I think it's been, what, three years ago minimum. Really fantastic that it happened with us. And I can't say enough about this guy right now. His presser was so impressive for me. Somebody was asked if he had thought about transferring, and just like that, no, absolutely not. This is where I want to be. This is for me. And however it plays out for this guy, he just made a huge move with the fan base. I think. I know he did for me. Huge move. So he then went on to describe the coverage, and somebody mentioned that he was throwing in double coverage when he made threw the touchdown to East Stu. He's like, no. Let me tell you, this is what that was. It was quarters coverage, and no, that guy was over there. Safety was coming across. He could have maybe went a little step further and said, yeah, that safety did really good to get back to where he did, but that was a man coverage going on right there. And he corrected the guy, telling me he knows quite a bit what's going on here. We have a starter for a backup. Now, we'll see how many games he's going to have to start. Maybe 2, 3, maybe the rest of the season. We don't know. Connor may be back next week. Not sure. That dude's tough as nails, I can tell. Did you see the fire in Connor? Let's go off the tangent real quick. Did you see that fire whenever we had that second penalty? Man, I'm loving that from that guy. And he has obviously got that kind of leadership style, which we have been deprived of, and I'm just aching for it. Love it. Max goes 7 of 11 for 123 yards on the day, though, and 11.2 average. 2 TDs. And right after that, y'all, here's what else is so valuable. So that enables us to get what we need and distribute to these other guys named Eastu, Anias, Moose, Walker, and even Cottrell and Tease are getting into the mix. And that's all not to mention Noah Thomas. These are all the huge weapons that we have that will allow us to do and have these dreams realized and these goals met that we've been trying to do. So the keys to this vault, the keys to this lockbox are going to allow us to get to these things. Like, these are the things that we want. Well, we got to get to them. We'll talk about how to get to them and what else is in this lockbox, though, because what we're opening up, you need to have a full picture of. Right now, in total offense, we are number 30th in the country. We have 1,800 yards through 4 games. Okay, you might be thinking, well, is that a lot? I don't know. That's nearly halfway to the 2022 mark last year. We had 4,300 yards, right? So we doubled the 1,800. We got 3,600 yards. And we're just needing 700 more. So we could potentially get that by game 8, right? That's a big improvement. Those are the kinds of things we're talking about that will enable us to actually beat some teams with our offense, right? We mentioned that at the beginning of the year. Because how are we doing it? We're 18th in the passing game. We're averaging nearly 300 yards a game. I don't know if you can get this stat somewhere else if somebody's taking the time to look it up for you, but I can tell you that hasn't happened on average since 2014. We did it 3 years in a row, 2012, 13, and then 14. It has not happened since to average 300 yards per game passing. We're doing it right now. Yeah, it's been the first 4 games. Maybe it's going to come back down. But even then, I'll tell you this, and I'll look this up for you as well. We've only been averaging just north of 200 yards passing. So even if we come down to 275, we're vastly, vastly improved. So these are the things that are needed. And there's more. We're 74th in rush. And that's not good, right? It's not good. We don't want to be there. We want to be like at least top 50, right? Okay, so I recalculated. And it turns out if you recalculate it for yards per carry, because I'm not so much interested in total yards or average yards per game, which is how the rushing yards or the rankings are calculated in large part. And I refactor for that, and it turns out that we're 41st. Okay, that's a good number, right? Yeah, well, it's kind of important, right? Because kind of the same thing is going on where we don't have as many attempts as everyone else. So we're not leaning on the rush game so much, right? Because yards per game are contingent upon how many times you carry the ball, right? You know, you carry it 10 times, well, you're not going to have as many yards as you would if you carried it 20. So your average yards per game are going to be inflated for those that carry it 20 versus 10, right? So, you know, you might want to kind of equalize that by looking by how much you do per carry, which is the whole reason why I did this, because it didn't make sense to me. How can we be 30th in total offense and then be 74th in rush? Our passing game must be really good for that to happen, right? Okay, well, actually what's happening is there's like 105 teams that have more attempts than us. So we rank in like the bottom 25 teams for a number of attempts. And that's why it's so low per game. But if you look at it per carry, it's 41st. Pretty respectable, as a matter of fact. So we're moving on up to the east side in this case, right? Maybe a little Jefferson's there. You didn't know I was that old, but now you do. Great. So we want all that. Rather, we need all that to get to the goals, right? What are the keys? How do we do all that? Well, I got 3 keys. Here's what I think happened on Saturday. We'll find out more in the coming weeks. First, I think we found an identity. Y'all. Let's talk about the offense. If you look at that second half and you see what this offense was doing, and one of the major changes that resonated with me that I saw, we started running 11 and 12 personnel. Connor got hurt on it was either a 10 personnel, no tight ends, or it was 20 personnel. We had 2 running backs or 1 running back. It might have been none. It might have been no running backs, no tight ends. I doubt it. Usually there's at least 1 running back, and that's the play he got hurt on, because they blitzed from his right side, got in between Basantis and I think Layden, and then crushed his knee, stepped on his foot, something along those lines. And I think the running back was on his left side, so maybe he slid that protection in the wrong direction. I don't know, but that's just going to happen. But that's just running basically 5 linemen. Now, of course, you put a tight end there. He's not another lineman, but he is on the line, and he can be used for that kind of style blocking, right? And we went to 11 and 12 personnel, running at least 1 to 2 tight ends, and we really started having a lot of success. When we started doing that, and you may remember the one play in particular where we just continued to push on that running play, push and push and push. And it was Le'Veon Moss that scored that touchdown after Amari Daniels had the long run, and we really got an amazing push at that point in the game. That, to me, was a big deal. It showed how we can utilize the personnel that we've got and the scheme that we can implement to get time for the quarterback and to protect them so that we're not getting injuries and we're not going to let them distribute the ball, right? Because here's the thing. All the things that we want to be able to do, right? Here's why these are the keys. These are the keys because they allow us to do all the stuff in the lockbox, right? And all the things in the lockbox allow us to get to our goals. Well, we can't have the 18th best passing offense if we can't get to our receivers, right? We got to distribute the ball to our receivers. We can't do that if we don't have time. We have to have time. We have to have an offensive line to be able to give that time. And so that's a lot of where this is starting. We've got the quarterbacks, no doubt. And of course, a lot of times you would say, well, we need the quarterback to be able to do that first. And that may be true. But in this case, we have that. And one of the two, they can do it. We need the time. We need it from the offensive line. And this seems to help. This seems to remedy. I don't know if it makes it simpler for them to figure out the blocks, to know that they've got this extra piece over here. If it also means, like with the tight end, he can engage in a block and then slip out, and we can do lots of dynamic things in that way. We can shift protections, move them over, sniff out where blitzes are coming from, and just do lots of dynamic things with that. So that's a huge key that allows us to be able to do something. It looked like in this game. That's why I've got it, because it looked like we started firing on all cylinders, whereas before we were just kind of sputtering. It's like we were just like, you're taking your keys and you've got this ring of keys and you're going key by key and putting it in the hole, turning it, see if it works. Turn it, put another one in, turn it, see if it works. Okay, this one worked. Okay, I found one that worked. And it's kind of a hunt and peck kind of situation, trial and error situation. And we found one. We found one that works really, really well. That's going to get me into my concerns in a second, but let's talk about the other key. There's 2. You got to get into the vault and the safe. You can't just do one or the other, right? You don't get into the goodies without getting into both. So that's only one. We got to have 2. Second one is, I think, that just need to pin our ears back on defense, and that's just kind of like a general kind of analogy for the style in which we're going to play. If you watch the game, you could tell right off the bat, things looked different, things felt different, even from a viewership standpoint. The defense was playing bruiser ball. They were going after the quarterback. Even from the defensive line standpoint, they were even putting in more effort, which is hard to say because Shamar Turner is just a beast. He is coming at you every play. But we sent more packages. We slid Bryce Anderson. We slid him down, and we played a lot more downhill football, which we talked about we needed to do. And we ran the 2 high safeties still, which is okay. We ran the 3 linemen, which is okay. It's not a problem. The problem is how you play it. And this is a fair point, because I've been harping on both these things or whatever, and it wasn't fair. I mean, I corrected this, a couple weeks back, but you talk about the things like the kind of symptoms, because those defenses aren't bad in and of themselves. It's how you play them. So we started flexing that safety down and moving him down into the box after the snap. It provides a lot of extra support, chaos, because you don't know where things are coming. But we also used Bryce Anderson as that Antonio Johnson spot from last year, and we really used him dynamically, sliding him over from coverage in and then blitzing with him. And we sent way more pressure this time, right? You could not miss it if you watched. Sure, we got some pressure with some 3-man fronts and some 4-man fronts, but we sent way more pressure this time. We sent 5, 6, 7 guys, way more than we did with Miami, right? Right, you know it. And so we kind of pinned our ears back. Durkin called things that maximized our players' ability. That's really all there is to it. That was the key to opening that up. That was the key to having this defense be locked down and giving you those vibes of a possible wrecking crew type of situation. They are not wrecking crew yet, let me clarify. But they gave you the vibes of it. You can't be that sort of thing without having a full season's worth of work. And they've been good so far. 14th in the nation definitely earns some comparisons. Playing the way they played, that hit by Chappelle to knock that ball out, which I've seen some compelling evidence that I initially did not think. I thought that was a forward pass off of the camera view. But guy on Twitter goes by the name of Oculus Reparo. I'm going to shout him out for this. Said, look at the shadows. Look at the shadow before he tossed it and where the shadow was when the receiver or running back caught it. And it's really compelling. It was behind. Now, can the officials pick up on that? I don't know. But I don't care so much about it anymore. This team is good enough to win without worrying about these calls, right? You saw the call on Max Wright, right? The same one basically that they should have called in the Miami game. And we've had plenty of these, y'all. We've had the Clemson call from the pylon. You remember this call. We have had the Georgia no holding call where he is literally grabbing the undershirt of our receiver when that happened. The forward progress call against LSU 2 years ago, or non-call as well there. You've got the 12th man non-holding call against Miami a couple weeks ago. And of course they also called the non-call on their receiver doing a pick route. But of course it gets called on us. I don't care about that anymore. I'm so far beyond that. I think we as Aggies need to move on. So just make this quick other point and we'll get back to the keys. We got to let that stuff go. This team's good enough to win without that, not without worrying about all that. We can win even when getting those kinds of things. We haven't got many turnovers either, but we still have been finding a way to win. We don't need turnovers to win. When they start falling, this team's going to kick some tail, but that's it. So 11 and 12 personnel on offense, that's a key. Pin your ears back on defense, that's a key. Let me tell you about my concerns, though. Can't leave without talking about these concerns, right? Because it's been one game. We can't just sit here and say, oh, yeah, they're wrecking crew or whatever after one game. No. You got to do that multiple games, right? Likewise, just because I've seen the offense do what they did doesn't mean I've got a lot of confidence that Jimbo, Petrino, maybe more confidence than I will about the D because it's involving Petrino, but, it's still got Jimbo's, attached to it. So I'm a little skeptical, sue me. He's got to stick with it. He's got to be willing to go back to it and not overthink the situation. You know, this is what we do well. Maybe against Arkansas, you're going to see some sort of matchup, and maybe so. I mean, it's not that I wouldn't say play the matchup, but don't forget about what we do well. And this seems to be what we do well. You remember, you stuck this key in to the vault and it worked. Don't start trying new keys. Or if you do, don't be stubborn and keep putting the same key back in. Get back to what you know works. Get back to what you know works with your guys. Know your guys. Know what works with them. This is so big right now. And so I'm even less confident that Durkin won't do this. We've seen him time and time go to and from the 3 and 4 man front. We've all kind of wanted the 4 man front. But as he's run the 3 and then like the 3 linebackers, and as he's, this last game in particular, worked the safety down into the box, things have worked out much better that way. So when he does that, things look good. Don't go away from it. Don't start calling the games like you used to call them. Call them like this. Bring the pressure, man. That's what these guys want. I loved it. Towards the fourth quarter, Auburn was trying to come down. It was probably like, I don't know, 4 minutes to go. And I think we had a 1 high safety, and we had 5 or 6 on the line. We were coming. And I loved that. Why? Because it wasn't breaking the mentality that we had started and initiated. We were there to be aggressive. And we were aggressive from beginning to end. And we didn't back off that and get into this other mentality like, oh, we're just going to, give up this little bit of yardage here, a little bit of yardage there. There might have been a slight back off, but we didn't just go off and start playing prevent, to be quite honest. We didn't fully do that. And I liked that. Keep them in the mentality to seek and destroy. We keep doing that, we're going to see something. So the key is consistency. That's my concern, actually, is will we be consistent with this? I'll tell you, though, if this trend holds, it is possible we may have a wrecking crew on our hands. I'll definitely reserve that judgment for multiple attempts. But I saw flashes of them on Saturday, right? But let me say this. It's important. Because I think one of the ways we got here was to be able to put this pressure. This little channel right here, provided little to no pressure. I get it. But there's lots of people out there tweeting. There's lots of people saying what needs to happen. The people knew. They said, defense needs to do this, offense needs to do that, whatever. And it happened. I'm not saying we all affected that. But what I'm really just saying is that I see that Jimbo's changed. I see that Durkin has made a change. And I like it. But you're week to week with me right now. Jimbo, Durkin, you're week to week with me right now. You impressed me this week. Impress me again. Don't go back to the other stuff. Or if you do, you need to show me that it's working, that it's effective with your guys. That would be fine if whatever you want to go over to is going to be effective. But we know what's effective at this point. So now it's kind of incumbent upon you to make sure that you at least stick with something we all have seen and know that works, particularly something that we've all called for. So be careful, Jimbo. Be careful, Durkin. You need to continue to impress us. We know what you should be doing with this. So you're on week to week with me. Right now, your status for next week is questionable, my friend. Okay? So that's that. I'll say this. Let's see what this team is going to do against Arkansas. Take care of business, and we might have a chance to get on a roll. We can start collecting money to put a down payment down for a run in the West.